Have you ever noticed how some men walk into a room and suddenly women notice them? Not because they're rich, not because they're strikingly handsome, not because they have a fancy car or a big social following. There's something far more subtle and far more powerful at play. It's an invisible force and energy, a presence that pulls women in like gravity, and it's almost impossible to ignore. Take Daniel, a guy I knew in New York. On paper, he was completely average. He didn't have the looks of a movie star, the money of a businessman, or the charisma of someone born to command attention, socially awkward at times. He often stumbled through conversations, unsure of what to say, and yet the strangest thing happened. Women he barely spoke to, sometimes just a brief interaction at a coffee shop or a casual introduction at a friend's gathering, ended up thinking about him for days. They would randomly text him, strike up conversations, or try to run into him, almost as if drawn by an invisible thread. Meanwhile, his friend Michael, the perfect package, tall, chiseled, stylish, driving a luxury car, struggled to get even a single reply. He posted pictures online, tried witty texts, and thought he was doing everything right. Yet nothing worked. It baffled both of them. Why did Daniel, the average, awkward guy, hold this invisible pull while Michael, the seemingly perfect man, went unnoticed? The answer lies not in superficial traits, but in psychology, human nature, and the timeless principles of Stoicism. It's about behaviors, mindsets, and energies that naturally spark fascination, intrigue, and even obsession without manipulation, without games, without pretending to be someone you're not. Today, I'm going to take you step by step through 7 psychological tricks that can make any woman obsessed with you, using real-world examples from cities like New York, London, Sydney, and Toronto, backed by both modern psychology and Stoic wisdom. By the end of this video, you'll understand why women get drawn to certain men, how to cultivate that magnetic energy, and why it works even when everything else about you seems ordinary. This isn't about gimmicks or shallow tactics. It's about becoming the kind of man women naturally can't stop thinking about. Once you master these tricks, you'll notice a shift in how women perceive you, how they engage with you, and how they can't help but wonder, who is this man? And why is he so different? Point 1. The paradox of detachment. Why less is more. Most men think obsession comes from chasing, from constant attention, from over-communicating their interest. They send multiple texts, over-explain themselves, and try to impress, believing that effort equals attraction. But the truth is the exact opposite. Obsession grows from detachment, from creating a space where she feels the pull without pressure. I remember Sarah, a woman I met in London, texting a man named James. He wasn't rich or exceptionally charming. He was just himself. And yet Sarah couldn't stop thinking about him. Why? Because James never overreacted to her messages. Sometimes he replied instantly. Sometimes he let a few hours pass. He didn't beg, didn't apologize, didn't try to entertain her constantly. He remained calm, self-contained, and confident in his value. Psychologists call this the paradox of scarcity. Humans are wired to desire what feels slightly out of reach. But here's the twist. It isn't about being mysteriously unavailable. It's about being detached from outcomes. James didn't chase Sarah's affection to validate himself. He wasn't desperate for approval. He lived in his own world, invested in his life, his passions, and his growth. That independence created an invisible magnetic force. Stoicism reinforces this principle. Marcus Aurelius said, "Wanting external things makes you weak. Wanting only virtue makes you strong." When a man detaches from needing approval, romantic or otherwise, he projects freedom. Freedom is magnetic. Women instinctively sense when a man's value doesn't depend on them, and it creates a psychological pull they cannot resist. The lesson is clear. Stop chasing. Start living fully in your own world. Invite her in naturally. Detachment isn't coldness, it's strength. It's the silent power that turns interest into obsession. Point 2. Emotional contrast. Make her feel alive. Obsession doesn't come from predictability or comfort. It grows from emotional contrast, a balance of intensity and stability that makes a woman feel alive, excited, and deeply understood. This isn't drama or manipulation. It's authenticity delivered with timing, presence, and emotional awareness. Take Olivia in Sydney. She was dating Daniel, a man who wasn't flashy or overbearing. but he had moments of profound emotional authenticity. One evening, over coffee, Daniel shared a story about his past struggles, his failures, insecurities, and the lessons he'd learned. Olivia listened, captivated. She felt a deep connection, a sense that she understood him in ways no one else had. Later, during a playful conversation, Daniel made her laugh until tears came. That juxtaposition of depth and lightness created emotional contrast, an imprint on her mind and heart that ordinary interactions could never achieve. Psychologists call this affective intensity. Our brains are wired to remember emotional peaks and valleys far more than mundane moments. The man who triggers these emotions, safety mixed with excitement, vulnerability paired with confidence, becomes unforgettable. Women don't just remember him, they feel him long after he's gone. Stoicism teaches the mastery of one's emotions. It's not about suppressing feelings but controlling them, using them deliberately to create presence. A man who can navigate his emotional waves calmly, yet express authenticity at the right moments, becomes magnetic. The lesson is simple. Make her feel alive, not just comfortable. Balance emotional depth with playfulness, intensity with safety, and watch how a simple connection can turn into fascination, attention, and eventual obsession. Point 3. The mystery of multidimensional life. One of the most powerful ways to make a woman obsessed is to live a life that extends beyond her. Women are drawn to men who are not defined solely by their relationships. They crave the intrigue and depth of someone who has a rich, multidimensional life. Take Michael in Toronto. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He spent his mornings reading philosophy, his afternoons training martial arts, and his evenings working on his startup. He had friends, hobbies, goals, and personal challenges that kept him fully engaged in life. Women he met were naturally drawn to him, not because he chased them or tried to impress them, but because his life was rich, textured, and unpredictable. There was always something new to discover, something deeper beneath the surface, and that created a natural sense of curiosity and fascination. Psychology explains this through the concept of curiosity-driven attachment. When a man is one-dimensional, focused only on women or validation, he becomes predictable and boring. But a man with layers, passions, and purpose activates the brain's dopamine system, creating anticipation and desire. Every interaction becomes a puzzle, a story, a journey she wants to continue exploring. Stoicism teaches the cultivation of self-growth and mastery of skills. By investing in your own life, your own purpose, and your own virtue, you become rare and magnetic. You're not competing for attention. You're naturally attracting it. A woman isn't obsessed with what you give her. She's obsessed with the life you embody, the depth she glimpses, and the sense that there is always more to discover. Point 4. The subtle power of praise and recognition. Obsession isn't built on generic compliments. Women don't fall for phrases like, "You're beautiful," or "You're smart." They fall for being deeply understood, noticed, and acknowledged. This is where subtle praise and recognition come in. Take Emily in Los Angeles. Months ago, she casually mentioned in a conversation that she disliked how people ignored small acts of kindness. Daniel remembered this detail, not immediately, not to manipulate her, but because he was attentive. Later, in a casual discussion, he praised her insight, noting how rare it was to notice such things. Emily was floored. It wasn't just a compliment, it was a reflection of her inner world, a moment where she felt truly seen and understood. Psychologists call this specific positive reinforcement. Generic flattery fades quickly, but targeted recognition creates emotional intimacy. The man who remembers subtle truths about a woman's thoughts, personality, or experiences builds a private emotional world between them, one she can't stop thinking about. Stoicism teaches observation and reflection. When you see without expecting, notice without judging, and acknowledge without needing anything in return, women feel an unspoken bond. They sense your attentiveness, your awareness, and your authenticity, and this deepens attraction far beyond superficial charm. The lesson is simple: observe, remember, and acknowledge. It's not the words themselves, it's the connection they create. When done right, it makes her think about you long after the interaction ends, planting the seeds of obsession. Point 5. Strategic vulnerability, strength, and honesty. Most men fear showing vulnerability. They think it signals weakness, lack of control, or incompetence. They avoid admitting mistakes, sharing fears, or opening up emotionally. But here's the truth. Controlled vulnerability is one of the strongest triggers of obsession. When done correctly, it doesn't weaken attraction. It strengthens it, because it makes a man real, relatable, and profoundly human. Take James, a client I worked with in London. He liked a woman, but instead of pretending to be perfect, he shared a story about one of his past failures, how he had lost an important opportunity in his career, what he learned, and how it shaped his growth. He didn't overshare, beg for sympathy, or dramatize his experience. He simply revealed a piece of his authentic self. She couldn't stop thinking about him afterward. Why? Not because he was weak, but because he was human, self-aware, and authentic. Psychologists call this the pratfall effect. When someone competent displays controlled flaws, it makes them more likable and trustworthy. Women are drawn to men who demonstrate both strength and authenticity. It signals emotional intelligence, resilience, and reliability, qualities that are far more attractive than superficial charm. Stoics practice this naturally. They acknowledge their imperfections while striving for virtue, understanding that growth comes from honesty and reflection. A man who admits mistakes, learns from them, and evolves is not only unforgettable, he becomes someone women instinctively respect, admire, and eventually obsess over. The lesson is clear. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's strategic honesty. It creates emotional depth, authenticity, and a magnetic aura. The man who knows himself, embraces imperfection, and grows continuously becomes a man women can't stop thinking about. Point 6. The rhythm of absence. Give her space to chase. Obsession rarely develops when a man is constantly present. In fact, too much attention can kill attraction. Women often obsess not when you're always there, but when you create strategic absence, allowing her mind and emotions to fill the gaps with curiosity and desire. Take Michael and Sydney. He was getting little attention from a woman he liked, so instead of chasing, he went on a week-long silent retreat to focus on personal growth, meditation, and physical training. He wasn't trying to manipulate her. He simply prioritized himself. When he returned, everything had shifted. The woman who barely noticed him before suddenly reached out, remembered the little things he did, laughed at his humor, and seemed drawn to his energy in a way she hadn't been before. Psychologists explain this through reactance theory and emotional incubation. Absence triggers desire, because the human mind naturally fills voids with attention, curiosity, and longing. Being constantly available removes mystery and reduces perceived value. By cultivating a rhythm of presence and absence, you create a subtle tension that keeps her thinking about you, wondering what you're doing, and emotionally invested without realizing it. Stoics have long understood this principle. Do not cling to externals. Let them come and go naturally. By focusing on your own life, goals, and growth, while allowing space and interactions, you naturally build intrigue. Obsession isn't forced. It emerges organically, fueled by independence, self-mastery, and the magnetic pull of a life well lived. The key takeaway: don't chase. Cultivate your own rhythm. Presence when meaningful, absence when necessary. This balance transforms casual interest into deep, enduring fascination. Point 7. The magnetism of purpose. Obsession follows mastery. Finally, we arrive at the ultimate trigger: purpose and mastery. Women aren't obsessed with who you might become. They're obsessed with who you already are becoming. It's the man on a path fully committed to growth, skill, and self-mastery, who ignites fascination that can't be ignored. Take Daniel in New York. He didn't chase women or try to impress anyone. Instead, he focused relentlessly on himself. He built a side business from scratch, trained in the gym daily, read philosophy and personal growth books, and dedicated time to learning skills that mattered to him. Women noticed not just the physical results, but the energy, discipline, and vision he carried. He exuded a quiet confidence and a sense of purpose that drew people in naturally. They weren't attracted to his looks, wealth, or social status. They were drawn to the life he was actively creating. Psychologists explain this through the concept of competence and goal-directed behavior. Humans are wired to value stability, growth, and capability. A man who consistently develops himself signals high value, resilience, and emotional maturity. These are traits women instinctively recognize as markers of a partner who is capable of security, leadership, and long-term commitment. When a man demonstrates growth and direction, Obsession can form organically because women are naturally wired to notice energy that represents strength and progress. Stoicism captures this perfectly. Focus on what you can control, your actions, your growth, and the world will follow. By prioritizing your personal mastery over external validation, you become magnetic without trying. Your purpose isn't just about ambition, it's about embodying a life that is compelling, disciplined, and meaningful. The lesson is simple. A man with purpose isn't chasing attention, he's creating it. Women don't obsess over distractions, they obsess over energy, growth, and a life of direction. The more deeply you cultivate your mastery and vision, the more naturally and irresistibly obsession follows. Conclusion. So here's the truth most men never realize. Women aren't obsessed with money, looks, or flashy displays of status. They're not drawn to superficial charm or temporary attention. What truly captivates them is a man who has mastered himself, who lives a rich, purposeful life, and who triggers emotions that linger long after he's gone. The 7 psychological tricks we've explored: detachment, emotional contrast, multi-dimensional life, recognition, strategic vulnerability, rhythm of absence, and purposeful mastery aren't just dating tactics. They're a blueprint for becoming a man who naturally commands attention, respect, and fascination. Each principle works on the subtle layers of human psychology, creating curiosity, stimulating emotions, and building an irresistible energy that women can't ignore. When you apply these truths consistently, something remarkable happens. Women won't just like you, they'll think about you long after interactions end, wonder about the depth and life you embody, and feel drawn to your energy in ways they can't fully explain. They sense your independence, your growth, your authenticity, and they can't help but be captivated. Remember, this isn't about manipulation or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about becoming the man women naturally find magnetic, the man who embodies freedom, confidence, depth, and purpose. A man like this doesn't chase validation. He inspires curiosity, admiration, and desire simply by living fully, mastering himself, and radiating authentic energy. Master these 7 principles, and you won't just change the way women see you. You'll change the way you see yourself, creating a life that commands attention, respect, and fascination. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.